Hello, my beautiful hatchlings and adventurers. How are you doing on this fine day? I hope you're looking after yourselves. If you're new here, hi, my name is Noah, and I am
The Bookworm.
and we talk about things to do with books and game books. You may be asking yourselves,
Noah, what are we talking about today?
Well, let me tell you.
eyeball, that's what I've got. Today we're going to be talking about Revenant X by David Wellington, number 2 of the Red Space trilogy. This book was released this year, so 2024, and it's classed, not that it's classed, it says that it is 512 pages of sci-fi horror, which is kind of a lie, because technically the story itself is only 469, and the rest is basically like kind of like a snippet of another book written by Megan E. O'Keefe. Probably going to butcher that, which is a nice little thing to do, just to kind of like get other people's work out there so people notice them. That's a lot of pages that is not part of the story. Not that I wanted them extra pages. So the first book, absolutely loved it, was ranting and raving about it months. Still lives rent-free in my head. Second book, the first book is all about how they're in a spaceship trying to get to Paradise 1, a planet, and the second book is how they eventually get onto said planet. And it's okay, it's pretty good. If you're comparing it from the first book, it's kind of missing a little bit of the mark, and it's something to do with how middle book syndrome kind of falls into play. And I was talking to Ven from Vens Corner, link down to their channel below. He basically was like, oh, it sounds like middle book syndrome, and I couldn't agree more with this book. The story of this, so the first book is all about how they go on this really fast-paced journey of trying to get to Paradise 1, where 10,000 colonists are on this planet, and the planet's just gone quiet. This book, Revenant X, is when they eventually do get onto the planet, and they go to where the colonists are basically set up, where there's 10,000 people supposed to be there, and there's nothing. It's just clean and empty, but all this equipment and these homes are there, with like food that's been rotting for we don't know how long and all that sort of jazz. And it's my best favorite bit of the book is just how they describe this place that's supposed to have 10,000 people and they're not there. And then it's all about how they get from point A to B, C, because it's basically a desolate planet. Life on top doesn't really exist. Dusty, weird coloured sun, all that sort of stuff, and they decide they have to go to where the mining place is, and then the mine itself. So you got the colonist place, the mining area, and then the mine itself, and there's kind of like the 3 bits that you kind of know about. That's really all that is on the planet. It's supposed to kind of pull you into this feeling of being alone while also feeling watched at the same time, that things are not right. And it just, for me, it missed the mark just a little bit if I was comparing the first book with this book, because even though the other book was all about being alone, technically we're not really, even though you had all these things happening around them, it still held that a lot better than this one. As Ven calls it, linked to Ven's channel down below, middle book syndrome, which is kind of upsetting a little bit, because I still enjoyed the read, but it didn't hold up as much as the first one. The plot itself, being that it's all on this dead planet until you kind of go a little bit underground, where there's a little bit of life there, but nothing bigger than a spider, technically. It feels very slow. I understand that it's supposed to be pulling onto the mentality of them being stranded and trapped. They've gone through this traumatic event in the first book, and then the trauma of what's going to be happening in this one. It felt a little bit slow for me, especially when it had really short chapters from different point of views where nothing was really happening in a way. So we have our standard characters that we have from the first book. We've got Alexandra Petrova, who is the Firewatch agent, who was really, really hurt in the first book and still has this injury going through most of the second book. But also the fact that from the first book, we know what the basilisk is, and that is kind of living in Alex's head. And obviously what we know from the basilisk is that it's an alien kind of like parasite living virus that's just kind of taken a slot in her brain, and it can basically destroy her mentally and physically in any kind of way. It can kind of take control. It can give her phobias that she doesn't want, and I love the aspect of that. The only problem is that the basilisk, this thing that from the first book that was made to be this huge thing, and it was mentally fucked, and all the graphic details for that, what the basilisk did was amazing. And then the fact that in the second book it's quiet, you don't really hear or see much of it, apart from the odd little times where Alex is kind of like questioning her sanity a little bit from everything. Kind of sucks, because I was really excited to know a bit more about the basilisk. Obviously, we've still got Zhang the Doctor, who I have to admit, originally I was kind of like, he was not my favorite character in the first book. In the second book, he slowly starts to blossom a little bit, which I absolutely loved, considering that he didn't like going outside. He hated people from what happened to him. I actually started to really like him as a character. Then we have Parker, the pilot, who in the first book died, who's now like a holographic ghost, and Alex's old love, and he's just obsessed with Alex, and it's like, please change your tune a little bit. And then we have Rapscallion, who I absolutely love and adore, which is the robot that came with them, who always seems to make himself like this horrendous green color when he gets to rebuild himself into these different type of things. That the reason why he does that is because people don't really like green, apparently. So he just likes to make people feel unnerved, and he's just that little bit of a slapstick character, but he's so brilliant and so well written. And then we finally have a new character called Mo, who is someone who they kind of find, and Alex keeps hinting that she knows things, she's seen things, but obviously because of the basilisk in her head, from what she's seen from Mo, she doesn't really understand what she's seen, but eventually it clicks, and it's kind of like, how did you not know? And all that sort of stuff. Still enjoyed the characters. Definitely liked Zhang more in this, and loved Rapscallion just like I did in the first book. Absolutely loved them. Rereadability. I would read it again, but I'd rather read the first book than the second book. That says more than enough as it is. I just feel like it was just lacking and missing these certain bits that the first book gave to me, which this one just kind of, it just missed the mark just that little bit for me. Fun factor, I had certain bits that was kind of like, oh, that's kind of cool. That was kind of it. The ending was more exciting than anything, not just because it was the end, but because it's put a time limit on things now for them. And especially with it being the last book, where it has this urgency, I'm excited for that more than anything. I'm excited for the third book more than the second book. Rating this 3 out of 5. I did enjoy it, but it, like I keep saying, it just missed the mark. The third middle book syndrome, as Ven calls it, which is very fitting for it. Kind of expected more. It was just really annoying that it obviously it has the small chapters when nothing's going on. Now I expect it to be like that when there's things are exciting and things moving fast pace and all that sort of jazz, but it just doesn't happen with this one. It has this weird build up to nothing, and eventually when the build up does happen, it's kind of like, well, I saw this coming from a mile off. But I still enjoyed it. Just wasn't as great as the first book, but I'm excited for the third book because now there's a time limit of where they have to go somewhere specific because they do get off the planet. That's all I'm going to say. That's kind of it for my little review. Nothing amazing, nothing fast paced, like just a couple of minutes of me being like, this is the A, B's, T's. Kind of missed the mark, but I'm excited for the last book of the series because I feel like that's when shit's going to really hit the fan. It had this kind of like dullish kind of moment of where they're on this planet where there's nothing really there, which I get, but I'm excited for the third book, especially with the time limit going on. I'm very confused about certain things that have been said in this book, and I kind of want to know how that kind of like adds to the puzzle going into the third book. That's it. That's all I've got to say. If you have any sci-fi horror books that you've read that you think would be really good for me. I would greatly appreciate if you put it down below. If you've read this book as well, let me know your thoughts on it. But stay awesome, make good choices, and love. Bye!